It's 10 a.m. here in Los Angeles, and you asked that I have a wine ready, so I poured myself a little bit of a Chianti Classico. You know, a girl's got to do what a girl's got to do.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's not 5 o'clock, and they don't care. Welcome to Wine to 5. Entertainment, education, and everyday drinking for everyday people. Your hosts are Valerie Caruso and Stephanie Davis, two wine educators who don't need a clock to know when to pour that next glass.
Hello, Wine 2-5ers. Are you guys ready for this epic episode today?
We are so excited. Steph and I are literally jittery with excitement. It could be the extra bit of coffee we had this morning. And of course, we're going from coffee right into wine. But we do have a surprise for you today because co-hosting with us is Master of Wine, Jennifer Simonetti-Bryan, also known as Jedi Wine Master on Twitter. But welcome to the show, Jennifer.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here with you two.
We are so excited. We're going to give a quick cheers to kick off the episode, and we're going to go right to what's in our glasses this morning. So cheers, ladies.
Cheers.
Just clink with my glasses here. But Steph, what's in your glass over there? I saw you've got something interesting this morning.
Well, I do. It's more of a breakfast item than anything else, and it isn't wine. So not to disappoint anybody, but we have not had any beer on the show in a long, long while. And so I'm kind of just throwing everybody for a loop here. I'm having Maui Brewing limited release Doppel Shot Double Bock. And the reason why I'm having it is because it's a coffee beer made in Maui, Hawaii. And I'm sort of channeling one of our podcast sisters, Amanda, from the Great Beer Adventure podcast, and having a breakfast beer. I mean, not that I needed more coffee or more alcohol, because this baby is 8.2%, but just for anybody who is a little bit geeky into beer, and I give you a little bit of a factoid here. Doppelbocks are a German-style lager, and it's twice, saying Doppel, as strong as a Bock. And it's really hearty, almost like meal in a glass. And so this one is super malty and really delicious. So that is my breakfast, or second breakfast. Isn't that what the hobbits have? Second breakfast? And so I think that's what I'm having.
Elevensies.
Well, 11sies, that's right.
Yeah, exactly. 11sies. So that's what I'm doing. Jennifer, what have you got?
I have a Barone Ricasoli Chianti Classico, and the name of the wine is Broglio. And they also have, Broglio is the name of the castle that they have that's been around since the 1100s. And I was there, maybe about 10 years ago. And every time I have this wine, it just brings me back to that really freaking cool Game of Thrones-like castle. So I'm thrilled.
What year is that?
Well, it's 2013, the vintage. But the castle, I think, has been around since 1142, I want to say. I might have gotten that one.
Yeah. In fact, there's that little chapel. I was there back in 2009 also. And there's that little chapel there where a Barone Ricasoli is actually buried.
Oh.
It's really primeval, overgrown. It's really different than the cypress trees you picture in the Tuscan countryside. You get down there toward Gaiole, and you get these overgrown dark woods. And it just had a whole different feel to it than the rest of the Chianti Classico, didn't you think?
Oh, it was great. And I was there for a dinner at night, and that was when the current Baron, who he doesn't call himself Baron, or Barone. No. His name is Francesco. I was there with him for dinner, and his father was still alive, and he lived in the castle still. So it was just wild being there at night, and they were talking about of course, the famous black chicken that's on on every Chianti Classico there, because there was a war between Florence and the southern
Siena.
Yeah, Siena. Thank you very much. And so they released the chickens, they left on horses, and wherever the two horses met, one left from Florence, the other one left from Siena, and wherever they met in the middle was going to be the boundary. But Florence was a little bit kind of ruthless in the fact that they starved their rooster at night, knowing that it would wake up earlier and crow earlier. So they got more land. Florence got more land. So that's where they ended up getting Chianti.
Right, the Gallinera. I think we made fun of it early on in the podcast. We called it the cockfight, even though that's not really what went down. But, you know, we were just making
hilarious.
fun of the whole crowing
story.
of the cock.
At the Master Wine Symposium, it was in Florence about 4 years ago. There's another one coming up next year, which anybody can go to, actually. I don't know if anybody knows that, but it's once every 4 years, kind of like the Olympics. But the last one was in Florence. And here we are. There I am with some fellow American masters of wine, and as they're talking about Chianti Classico, and then of course the town magistrate gets up and he's talking about the legend of the Gallinero, and in his English he translated it into big black cock. And so, of course, every time he talks about this, all of us, the Americans, are just giggling every single time he says, and of course, the big black cock. And so we're just giggling to ourselves. It's like, yeah, okay, we're masters of wine. Like, pull it together, people. Come on, we can do this. We're mature.
Oh my God!
I didn't know anyone could go to that, so that is fun. And the next one's going to be in Florence too?
No, the next one's going to be in Rioja.
Oh,
yeah, it changes location. So yeah, this next one's gonna be in Spain. They were debating back and forth whether or not it should be in Hong Kong or in China or in Singapore or in Chile. So there's it's exciting. It's kind of like the Olympics. Where's it going to be in the next 4 years? So
that would be exciting. But we should probably get on because we could chat all day about that kind of thing. But so you've got the Castello di Broglio 2013 Chianti Classico. Steph's got a beer, and I thought about opening a rosé. Well, you've got the new book out, Rosé Wine: The Guide to Drinking Pink, and I love to drink pink all year round. So this is a Knipser Rosé Claret Trocken 2016 from Pfalz, Germany. Ooh. So I think I've had this on the show before, listeners. So I do a lot of repeats because sometimes I just like to drink what I like to drink. But this is the 2016. Trocken means dry, and this is a rosé wine. And at first I was kind of like, I don't really care what grapes are in it, because when these guys make wine and put their little screw cap on it, I don't care. I just love what they do. But I did find out, I believe there's Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Saint Laurent, and Merlot in this wine. And it is absolutely refreshing and delicious and great before 11 a.m. So I'm loving this rosé wine. I know. It's just such a fun. It's going to be 86 degrees today. Why not?
Why not? Yeah. It's from Germany, and it's got cat in it. That's very interesting.
I know. And there's another really interesting one I've had on the show twice already. They call it a Blanc de Blanc, like as in a bubbly, but it's actually a still wine in the same flute style bottle. And it's actually got Cabernet Sauvignon and Pinot Noir in the same bottle. And It's a white wine.
Those are two things you never thought you'd blend together.
Right? Yeah. You never see them in the same glass, and you never see them in a white, like not even a rosé. It's a white wine. Wow. And it's ridiculous. And it's actually one of my favorite, like I go into my wine purveyor, like, what's new and weird? And they just love.
I love that. What's new and weird?
Yep. They know. They see me coming and they're like, oh, we got some weirdness for you, Val. And this is one of those ones that once they got me hooked on this brand, I just kept drinking it. So we'll post some pictures. It's a fun, beautiful, almost a salmon color. And it's a really good food wine too. It's got really good acidity, really good red berry flavors, but it's got a nice weight to it as well. So I'm not hating on this. But
or the price. I think you said it was like $12 or something.
Yeah. It's great. But we want to get into the discussion because we are so lucky to have Jennifer here, and we're just going to read an abbreviated bio because the whole thing will be in the blog, but she is so accomplished. And we want to get in and let her have some of this oxygen and talk with us today. So just a few points about Jennifer Simonetti-Bryan. If you don't know who she is, she's, first of all, the fourth woman and among only 40 people in the U.S. to ever attain the international title of Master of Wine. She is the author of The 1 Minute Wine Master, Discover 10 Wines You'll Like in 60 Seconds or Less. And she also just released her book in April, I believe it was. Was it April?
Yes, it was April, yeah. But I have another book called Pairing with the Masters, which is for CIA and Le Cordon Bleu, which I did with a certified master chef. So that's about food and wine pairing.
Fun. Okay. Yeah. And she's got actually quite a few books. And she's also got the 5-film series on wine and spirits with the great courses. In fact, we just got our great courses catalog yesterday. We get those here at the house. And the Everyday Guide to Wines, as well as the Everyday Guide to Wines of France, Italy, and California, and the Everyday everyday guide to spirits and cocktails. Are there more?
Not with them, but they were so much fun to do, I have to say. It was a big time crunch, because normally it takes like 18 months for them to create or at least have space in their studio, but I had to do it in like 2.5 months. So I had to write everything and stage everything and get all the wines, and it was insane.
You were also a frequent guest on national television, and there are many, but NBC, Today Show, Fox Business, CBS, and so many others to list, and they're all on your website. And you've also written for New York Times, Fortune, Forbes, Wall Street Journal, and among many others. And then you've also been on Food Network with Rachel Ray, Bobby Flay, Mario Batali. And I don't know where you have time to even sit here with us today, but you're also the senior partner at a technology firm called Wine Ring.
Yeah, and I just did a TED Talk last week. So it was, it was really great. I proposed a topic to them that was like really serious and stuff like that. And they were like, no, we want you to do blind tasting. So you're going to see that come up pretty soon.
Oh, great.
Oh, that'll be fun. And we'll definitely link to that. Yeah. Yes.
I love TED Talks. Yes. I'm so addicted to TED. I'm kind of obsessive. My husband wants to wind down for the night, and I'm going to the TED app on my smart TV, and I'm like, but there's all these TED Talks I want to watch.
I know. It seems like we could drink together, girls. We're on the same page here.
Oh, yes. It's funny, but that's the way my mind works, I guess. Mm-hmm. Entertainment. Well, let's go back to Jennifer. Take us back in time to when you were in a totally different career, and you've had some wine before, but it wasn't something that you were really passionate about. How did your life change? When did it change? And how did you decide to leave the financial world and go in, all the way wine?
Well, I didn't jump into it right away into the industry, but I was working for Citibank in London, and I was going to an optimal capital structure meeting, and I was a management associate at the time. And I think either through lack of sleep and whatever, they allowed us to go to this corporate dining area where we were entertaining some clients. And they had at this lunch, it was a business lunch that just changed my life forever. They served an herb-crusted salmon and a Sancerre. And Sancerre is a white wine, a Sauvignon Blanc from the Loire Valley in France. And I know this now. Back then, I didn't know anything about wine. My family still proudly drinks Riuniti, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we know nothing about wine. And so back then, it wasn't that the wine itself was so amazing. It was the pairing that just threw me for a loop. I was like, oh my God, this is so delicious. And it never occurred to me that these two things would ever go together. And at that moment, I thought the chef in the back didn't go, oh, just throw these two things together. Just give them the white wine, whatever it is. There was a conscious decision to put these two things together for that reaction. And that just thrilled me. And from that moment, I thought, I'm going to go look up a wine class. And I didn't want it to be snobby because I didn't know anything and I was really intimidated. But I found the Philip McGregor School for Wine. And this guy had a 6-person class, and he was drunk every class. But it was so much fun. It was great because I would go every Tuesday. It was at 7:00, and then I would go back to the office. So I couldn't drink a lot. So I would just, do a lot of tasting, but I was bit by the bug, and that was it. I remember listening to people in the office, these banker types, and they're all trying to up one another and stuff like that. And they would always talk about these oaky, buttery Chardonnays. Well, I had no idea what an oaky, buttery Chardonnay was. And so I lived across the street from an Oddbins, which is a wine store. And we would probably call them a discounter here. And so I walk across the street, talk to the guy behind the register. And I said, my good man, I would like an oaky, buttery Chardonnay. And he brought me a Wolf Blast Chardonnay. And I was like, oh, it's white. Like, I had no idea what I was asking for. So he gave me the bottle. It was, at the time, it was £7 sterling, I remember. And I brought it home, and I was like, okay, you and I are going to be friends. We're going to find out what this oaky buttery thing means. And I opened it up, and I was like, ooh, I got the butter thing. It tastes like butter, and I don't know what oaky means, but it does kind of taste like vanilla, and I got some apple-y thing going on here, so this will work. And so began my love affair with, and I mean, the short answer is that banking drove me to drink, but that's not really true. But after that point, cool. I wanted to know more and more and more. And someone, like a few weeks later, after I was starting to take classes, I was so burnt out. They call it churn 'em and burn 'em in the finance industry. They just take 20-somethings and they just exhaust all of your energy. And I remember being there at 3 a.m. or something along those lines, begging my boss, like, let me go home, just a few hours of sleep. I just need a few hours of sleep. And she said to me, no, you're going to finish this. Then you can go home and get a few hours of sleep. And then someone said, don't worry, Jennifer, about 10 years, you'll have paid your dues. I'm like, I am not spending the next 10 years doing this. And I ended up leaving banking, quitting my 6-figure salary, and working for a wine store in Greenwich Village in Manhattan called the Burgundy Wine Company. That was back in 2000. Yeah, that's how I got into wine.
Yeah, that's great. If your day job drives you to drink, I mean, I want to talk a little bit more about the books that you have, because I'm sure our listeners would be interested in hearing about what came behind the Rosé wine book. I mean, was there this whole thing about everybody's drinking pink, or was it the Brosé thing, or is there a we can drink pink all year round thing, not just summer? What is the philosophy behind the book?
Blunt, my publisher contacted me, and that's Sterling. And they have, I mean, the way I got my first book, the 1 Minute Wine Master, I proposed a book to them. I'm like, look, guys, you don't have any authors as part of your repertoire that's a master of wine, and you don't have any female wine authors. So you've got a gap in your portfolio of authors for wine, and they bought it. And so I presented the idea of the 1 Minute Wine Master, and it's based on a quiz. Now, I'm not the first person to come up with a quiz, but I am the person that, said, all right, if you tell me if you like coffee black, if you like it's sweet with a little sugar, or if you like these types of perfumes, it tells me a little bit of something about your palate. And at the end of these 10 questions, which only takes you a minute to do, you go into one of 4 categories: spring, summer, fall, winter, which it's kind of self-explanatory. It's like getting your colors done for makeup, but for wine. And the Rosé book is no different. But instead of spring, summer, fall, winter, I had, blush, crisp, fruity, and rich. So it's the same kind of concept of spring, summer, fall, winter. Those in the blush category are slightly sweet. Those in the crisp category are still light, but have more acidity, and they're dry. The fruity are obviously fruity, but still dry. And then the rich are almost like red wines, and they're rosé. So it's the same kind of concept, but extended to the rosé category because it's become so popular. And I'm glad to see that so many different styles are being embraced, from the blush category all the way to rich, because it's not just one.
I just had my first frosé not too long ago. And I think that is such a neat new thing for people to enjoy, is these frosés in the freaking hot weather. I mean, some parts of the country are so hot during the summer that you don't even want to have rosé or white wine, because it's only going to get hot. Yeah. And so it's like, how do you enjoy wine? And these frosé options are so cool too. So I think it's nice that wine is starting to just have, I don't know, it's just evolving into, every area. There's something for everybody, and more and more people are drinking wine.
Yeah, and it's becoming less snobby, which I am all about. I don't like the whole snobbiness, elitist kind of aspect about wine. If you want to put ice in it, go ahead, they'll make more. I won't drink it with wine, but you go ahead and do what you got to do. So,
yeah. I've helped people find ice for their wine before, because they're just like, Oh, I overheard some ladies at a fundraiser saying how they thought the wine was too hot. And they were like, I could overhear them talking to each other. And they said something like, I wonder if there's any ice. And I said, hey, I saw some other people with ice in their wine. I think they got it over here. And they were just like so excited. And I was just like, people just want to be happy when they're drinking. I mean, who's to judge about ice in their wine?
And actually, events are notorious. Weddings, events, whatever they have, they never chill the wine in a long enough period of time. They just never do. And that's the reason why I think people put ice in their wine to begin with, because it's just not chilled properly enough before the event. Mm-hmm. And you want a chilled glass of white or rosé. I mean, unless it's a big, rich Tavel, which, it doesn't need to be that cold. So,
yeah. And hot wine is no fun. And I think a lot of restaurants don't serve their wine at the right temperature. And I know, Steph, you were talking about the frosé thing. And here when I make my berry smoothie in the morning, I mean, is that kind of like the same thing? Just put some wine in it?
Without the protein powder, yeah.
There you go.
There you go. Some antioxidants with that. All right.
Yeah, I actually did that with my second cup of coffee. Instead of drinking it, I just threw it into like a peanut butter cocoa powder smoothie. I'm like, I'm just gonna throw the coffee in there, just do it all. And it's all good. And then there's some chocolate bitters. What the hell?
Why not?
It's all in there. Why not? I mean, but I like that philosophy of almost like a seasonal, not seasonal as in the seasons, but a spring, summer, fall, like based on like the colors.
It's a profile. It's a profile for the wine, and it's easy to explain to the staff. I mean, my mom went into a wine store recently, and she's like, well, I like wines that are like a spring. And she started going, well, they're kind of light and kind of crisp, just like spring is, and maybe a little floral. And the wine person who was there was like, oh, I totally know what you're talking about. So
you've trained her. I mean, yes. She's got it down.
Yeah, well, I had to train her for a long time. And she couldn't pronounce sommelier for the longest time. And I said, okay, Ma, it's so, Mel, yay! Unfortunately, she now puts the emphasis on the last yay. So she almost scares people with so mel, yay!
That's so cute. But you know what? She's already off to a good start, because I think teaching people how to ask for what they like, I think that is the hard part of the discussion. When people say, well, what do you like? And reading like Bianca Bosker's book, Cork Dork, and she talks about when you're trying to get like playing hostage negotiator, you're trying to figure out what it is they like when they say, oh, I like something dry. Well, is that really what they like?
Right. We don't have a universally accepted vernacular for our palates.
No.
We don't. We have for our eyes, because we're trained with crayons. We know what blue and green is. And then when we get older, we know what aquamarine and teal and turquoise is, but we don't have that language for our palates. And a lot of times when I was beginning wine, I would have the Le Nez du Vin set, and they have different wine awakenings. There's a lot of different kits out there that you can practice with aromas, because aromas are flavors. And I would sit and pick up one, and they have numbers on it, and I would look up what it was. I'm like, oh, dang it, that is pineapple. But you're sitting there going, wow, I know what it is. I smelled this and I tasted this before, but I just can't quite put my finger on it. We just don't train our palates like we do our eyes or even our ears. So we know the difference between jazz and rock. We've heard that, and we have vernacular around it. We just don't for our palates, which is the reason why it's so difficult to explain.
Right. It's just like when people ask you, and I'm sure you get the question all the time, and it makes me absolutely crazy when they go, well, what kind of wine do you like, Val?
Today? Right now?
Like all of it? Jennifer, what would you say? How do you answer that question?
I answer that question, if I was on a totally deserted island and I had one choice, and that was it, I would either choose a really highly autolytic champagne that's been aged, a vintage champagne, or a white Burgundy, because that's just how I roll. That's my preferences. But I go through phases. I mean, just like people go through phases in what they have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And there are different days. I mean, but if I had to choose one thing, I usually gravitate towards Chardonnay or Pinot Gris. I'm generally not a red wine drinker when I'm at home. And you have to separate the personal preference out from what you think is quality.
Right.
And that's what the Master of Wine program or the Master of Wine torturous process does. It helps you separate out what your personal preference is versus what is quality. I'm not a huge Cabernet Sauvignon fan, but I can absolutely tell you which one is quality and which one is not. So it's quite different. But to answer your question, I've been into Oregon Pinot Gris lately, and I drank so many rosés this winter, this past winter for writing the book. So, but I'm still not over it. It's not just for breakfast anymore.
I love her.
That's so funny. Well, I do want to go. I want to have a quick chat. I didn't put this kind of on the list, but when you mentioned the great courses, and since Val gets the catalog as well as I do, how did that relationship come about?
They contacted me. And they asked me, I guess, for lack of a better term, audition for them. And they had various professors, and even Kevin Zraeli was in the mix. They had various people auditioning, and I guess they liked my style in terms of presenting. And the biggest challenge with that was the time crunch, but also they wanted every word written out in advance. And so that they could keep it within 30 minutes and make sure that it was an impactful 30 minutes. So learning how to read a teleprompter of my own writing, you want to be able to go off on tangents and stuff like that, but you can't because, you want to get it into that compact 30 minutes. But they called and contacted me.
Wow.
How cool.
Yeah.
That sounds very rewarding. I like that, it's out there for people to access with just clicks. People can learn and grab that information and digest it.
And on your mobile device as well. You can do the great courses, whether it's calculus or whatever it is on their mobile app. I think that's fabulous. I love being on the treadmill. Actually, that was the biggest criticism I got from my wine courses. I can't do it on the treadmill. Well, why would you want to be drinking wine on a treadmill?
What, they don't have a cup holder on the treadmill? Because I do.
Yeah. No, I never got that, but oh, well, tomato. Yeah, right. What do you do you.
Yeah, right.
That's right. I'll do me. You do you.
I can't do my wine course on the treadmill. That is hilarious. What how would you even recommend fixing that?
I can't. Because what am I supposed to say? Yeah, well, you can drink wine on a treadmill if you want. It's just not, it's not a good idea.
Yeah, that's just a silly criticism. But anyway.
Yeah. Oh, shoot. Okay, well, so let's move on to the wine ring. So tell us about the wine ring, because I'm totally into apps and everything else. And tell us how you got involved with that. Oh,
well, it started almost like, it sounds like the beginning of a joke. A Goldman Sachs banker, a incredibly high-level lawyer, and a scientist walk into a bar. So, a banker, lawyer, and a scientist walk into a bar. They contacted me and they asked me to help develop this kind of system with them on an algorithm. And I think so far they have 16 patents that have been granted, not waiting, but granted around the world. And it's amazing. And so what the app does, instead of what Amazon does, which is if you bought this, then you'll like this, which works great unless you bought a book on Princess Elsa for your niece. And then every recommendation has to have Princess Elsa. Nothing against Princess Elsa. I love Princess Elsa. But, it's recommendation. That's called a collaborative filter. They filter for particular pieces of information. And that's not what this is. Nor is it a polling type of app where it's crowdsourcing. So that's kind of like Rotten Tomatoes. If you ever looked for a movie, Rotten Tomatoes, where 95% of people like this movie. And it's not that either, because we felt that, I don't care how many times you tell me it's worth 100%. I'm not going to watch Goodfellas. I'm just not a mafia movie watching gal. I'm not going to like it. And so even if it's right for everybody, it's just not right for me. So what Wine Ring does is it takes the crosshairs of all of your different preferences, but you have to tell us what you love, like, so-so, and don't like. And that's it. You tell us you love this particular wine that you've had recently, or you look for another wine that you had recently, you say you didn't like that one. And it takes the crosshairs of all of that and then says, we're going to base these recommendations on just you, not everybody, just you, and not a filter looking for different pieces of data. It's based on just your unique DNA fingerprint of your preferences based on what you tell us you love, like, so, and don't like. So that we felt was missing in not only for wine apps, but for apps in general. So based on recommendations, it's just
and
based on
shopping
you.
in general, like you were saying for Amazon or anything, shopping in general too.
Yeah, and the patents go a lot more than just wine. So the patents have been granted for far beyond that. Anything that has to do with smell, taste, touch. So anything that can be perceived. So it goes beyond that. I mean, so I remember talking to a master sommelier who shall remain nameless. And I said, so what do you think that means? He goes, oh my God, beer. I'm like, okay, think a little higher. He says, cheese. I'm like, okay, all right, you're not getting this. Okay, yeah, yes, food and wine, but also bed sheets or for different kinds of cars and different types of emotions and things that you feel around particular products. So it goes way beyond that. Even though the first area is wine, technology works for way beyond that. And when I got into it, I got 10 masters of wine and master sommeliers to come on board. So they are raring to go, and they're doing very well.
So what's the next thing for Wine Ring? What's on the horizon?
Well, I think that for them, it's one of getting more people to understand their technology, because maybe about 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, trying to explain that kind of technology, people just wouldn't get it. But today they can. And I think that is the future for them. It's just going to be growing by leaps and bounds. And actually, as of, I believe it's today. Today's the 29th. Today's the 29th. I think that I can announce this now, as the Facebook and I have had a partnership, and I'm releasing a new wine show with Facebook. It's called the 1 Minute Wine Master. It's after the book, but I'm doing different things, and it's like a 9-minute show on Facebook. Okay. So it's called the 1 Minute Wine Master. It's going to be released. My first episode is going to be released on September 6th. Okay. So that's very exciting.
Congratulations. That's
cool. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. And I want to make sure that it stays fun. So one of the episodes that I'm going to be doing is going to have Mad Libs. You remember those Mad Libs? Totally. And so someone's going to have to hold red wine in their mouth and read the Mad Libs that they have and see if they can't spit it out for fear of laughing. So so try to keep the fun in it as well as learning a little something about wine.
Okay. We are at the point in the show, Jennifer, where we've all had it happen. Anybody who's been in the industry or anyone who loves wine has had something happen to them that makes wine kind of a part of our life where we don't take ourselves so seriously. We might take wine seriously, but it's important to not take ourselves so seriously. And I'm guessing that you've got an embarrassing or a funny wine story that just kind of keeps it real for you.
Oh, yeah. I've got quite a few of them. One stands out. I was about, it had to be in 2007, so maybe about 10 years ago. I was the director of education for Remy Cointreau, an importer and distributor. And I was going around the country teaching distributor salespeople about wine. And which, if you've never done that before, and back at that time, it's probably changed now, but you're entering a room of 100 men that look like Tony Soprano. And as I was talking to them about different aspects of quality, so when I taste a wine, I go through probably about 12 different parameters for quality, including balance, length, integration, complexity, concentration, and all that kind of stuff. And so I got to complexity, and I'm explaining to them what complexity is. And as I'm explaining, it's like, okay, so it's like an ice cream sundae. there's nothing wrong with plain Jane vanilla ice cream. And that is what we would call simple. It's one flavor. But complexity is where you're putting hot fudge and then whipped cream and maybe some nuts on it and maybe some sprinkles. And what I meant to say was either Reese's Pieces or Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. But because I was nervous, what I ended up saying was Reese's Penises.
Oh, no. Oh, nice.
And so, of course, in a room full of 100 Tony Sopranos, they were like, what did she say? What did she say? And instead of letting it go and moving on, I went, oh, my God, I said Reese's Penises. And that was it. The room erupted in laughter, and there was no training after that. Like, you can't reel it in after that. So.
Oh, my gosh. That is great.
Yeah. Yeah,
so that is great. That is, oh.
I love how we started this off talking about the big black cock, and now we're talking about Reese's Penises.
Well done. Wait.
This might sound one way. Oh, my goodness.
Way to bring this full circle. I'm wondering if we have to make this episode explicit or not. iTunes will kick us off. So we'll find out. Okay. So that's fantastic. Funny. All right. That's one of the better ones. Reese's Penises. You heard it here, listeners. That is an awesome wine. Again, and you recovered, and it's okay, and life goes on. And
they told me I'm welcome back anytime. So
yeah, there you go. There you go. So, oh my gosh. Well, that was a funny story, and we're gonna actually move on to a Wino Radar. I did find something interesting, and again, through the Twitterverse, there was just a quick blurb that came through about making wine in space.
Really?
And I thought, and it's so funny because Jennifer, I remember you being on Star Talk with Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Oh, he's awesome.
I mean, does he make astrophysics sexy? Because I'm sorry. I loved you on that show. We love him. We listen to him. We've seen him live. We love us some Neil deGrasse Tyson. And I'm still, I'm not holding Pluto against him, but I love him. But
he's one of these guys that is such a genius that you realize when you're speaking to him, he's pausing to talk in smaller words to you.
Uh-oh.
And, as smart as I think I am, I'm talking to him going, oh my God, he never talks down to anybody ever, but he's kind of pulling it back. And, and it's for everybody else's own good, but there's another level there.
Oh, there is, like I said, and if you've seen him speak live, I mean, he's just so charming. He is a wine aficionado. I mean, he was actually mentioned in Bianca Bosker's book. He was at that.
Yeah, we're both as part of the New York Chevalier de Testevin, so we are both Knights of Wine, and so I've seen him many a time, and he's exactly in real life as he is on TV, as he is on podcasts. He's just amazing, and he does ballroom dancing. Did you know that? He can do
that's cool.
Dancing and salsa and all that stuff.
Yes.
Not that I've danced with him, but he's really cool for an astrophysicist. Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he makes science sexy. I'm just going to say that. I just love it. I've heard that he was a professional ballroom dancer too, wasn't he?
Yeah, I don't know about that, but he can do it.
So I remember hearing you on this episode. It was an older episode, but I was just like kind of going through Wine Podcast when we first started our show. I'm like, oh my God, this is a great episode. And we had just seen him live. But this wine in space thing, I thought, well, this kind of goes with that event that I remember. And I think it's so funny because, right, these days, a lot of us are waking up every day wondering what the heck planet we're on half the time anyway. And so there's this conversation now about growing grapes in space. I mean, they're talking about all kinds of things in space, but what about winemaking? So
Moon terroir, Mars terroir. There's an entire level there that we're going to have to go. I don't know.
Yeah. In fact, I actually wrote that. It's a different take on terroir altogether. But so I guess it was Wine Mag. So it was Wine Enthusiast that kind of did a quick paragraph, but they referenced the Gizmodo article about NASA making wine in space. And they have something they call the Veggie Principal Investigator. Her name is Joya Massa. She said China has sent some great varieties up to space, and they have not ruled out the idea of viticulture in space, not to mention winemaking. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, wine grapes need definitely levels of phosphorus and nitrogen, and there's so many different nutrients that they need that I would love to know more. My husband and I look at all stuff that's space. I mean, my Twitter handle is not Jedi Wine Master because I don't like space. I love space and sci-fi and all that kind of stuff. I just don't know enough about any of the nutrients on the other planets in order to do it. I mean, hydroponically and aquaponically, you can probably grow grapes. The quality level, I've always wanted to do like this quality level, but in order to, I'd have to be, maybe 30 years old before the 30-year-old vines. And I don't know how that all is going to work out or if it's necessary, but someone's going to figure it out.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And then, of course, they also mentioned in this article that, even if it's one of those miniature vines, like the miniature fruit trees, that getting the light to the sprawling vine, in her words, is going to be a challenge because you would want very compact varieties, like the dwarf fruit trees that the USDA has developed for this. So I thought it was just kind of interesting. And I'm like, why the hell not? Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah. Put it out there,
It's out there. The conversation's being had. China has sent Merlot and Pinot into space, and they're looking at microgravity, and the results are still pending, according to this article by Gizmodo. But I thought it was kind of funny. We'll link that up for you guys. You guys could take a look at it, do a little research, leave us a SpeakPipe message, or give us some input if this is something you're interested in, and let us know. So that's about it for my wino radar. But I thought that was kind of interesting.
I like it. I think it's cool. Good thing to dig up there, Val. I don't have anything on my wino radar, but I do have a shout out that I want to give to one of our listeners, Ash Lombardo. She posted some glorious photos. I'm talking excellent photos of her birthday trip that she just took herself with her little poodle Pooch to the Biltmore in Asheville, North Carolina. And she treated herself to a little birthday adventure over there. And she put it all on our Wine25 community page. It was like a blog. I mean, she wrote this whole story. It was so great. She used our hashtag W25 challenge because it was a place she'd never been and tasted their wines there. And it was really, really well done, and you could feel her excitement through her post, which I just loved. And I told her that's why we created this page, just for these kind of things. And I loved, she put in a hashtag that said, hashtag no shame. And I'm like, so stealing that. I'm like, yeah, girl, no shame in that.
That's awesome.
No shame in what? I mean, there's no shame to be had. It's funny because I had just gotten into wine about 17 years ago when I lived in California, when I was stationed at Beale. And when I was stationed in North Carolina, I remember Biltmore Estate wines were showing up in the store, along with all the Muscadina varieties too on the shelves. I mean, the Duplin wines and all that. But I had a friend bring me some Biltmore Cabernet. And my first reaction was like, well, this will be interesting. But I bought an Italian bottle just to back it up of a known good, for the dinner I was making. And it was actually delicious. I just kept going. I finished the bottle. It was so good. So there is no shame in wine. And I think that's one thing the wine industry does is we try to drink shame people. Yeah. So no shame at all. They're making some great wine.
There goes that bottle. Yeah. It's a high evaporation rate in some places.
Exactly. So I can't wait to see those pictures. And I don't know if you guys have been out to the Asheville area, but they have a national park nearby. They've got over 200 waterfalls. You can go stay out in a cabin, and then you can go wine tasting all in the same day. I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful part of the country. So I can't wait to see it. And their wines are really good.
I need to get myself there. Yeah, I've never been. So I told Ash, I was like, well, girl, I think I have just found an excuse to take myself over there to Asheville. So, Oh,
it's gorgeous. I was doing some yoga under a waterfall on one of the hikes I did. I've just posted a picture. It looks really dorky, but it is a really cool place to go visit. And yeah, if they have wine, bonus, Ash. So if you've got a blog or something, let us know. We'll link to that too so people can find you. So very cool.
Yes.
I just think it's great what you guys are doing. And I'm very thrilled to be here talking with you guys. It's like talking to someone who speaks your language. Like, oh my God, you know me. You get me.
Oh, no. This is great. And I know our listeners are absolutely going to love this interview when it finally airs, too. So we thank you for spending time with us. And We also want to thank our patrons out there because they support us on our crowdfunding platform called Patreon. And we have our tenacious tasters out there. We have Jeff E. from the We Like Drinking podcast, Lynn from Savor the Harvest out there in Bordeaux, Sebastian of Sassy Italy Tours, Dave and Lisa, Illinois, Jen in Maryland, and our It's Not 5 o'clock and We Don't Care listeners. Thank you, Meg in South Dakota, Clay in Arizona, John in California, Andrew and Aswani also in California, Chantel in Ontario, Canada, Mary Lou in my birth state of Pennsylvania, Kathy in Georgia, Chris and Janet in Colorado, Steve in Illinois, and our friend Kathy in Tennessee, Renee in Illinois, and Diane in Colorado, our newest patron, and our tastemaker listener in Scotland, David, and Carol in Kentucky, and our Wine-tastic listener, Laura.
Do you want to be entered in our monthly patron drawing for a surprise wine gift? Do you want early releases of all our episodes, exclusive content, shout outs, and swag? Well, go to our Patreon page for details, patreon.com/wine25podcast. We are here for you every week, and this has been 128 weeks in a row. And in between episodes, you can find us on the social spaces at Wine25. And we encourage you to join our private Facebook group called Wine25 Community. You can contact Miss Val on Twitter at WineGalUnboxed and as Vino with Val on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. You can also connect with me on Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram as the Wine Heroine. Jennifer, tell everybody how they can connect with you.
The best way to get connected with me is on Twitter, Jedi Wine Master, or on Facebook, Jedi Wine Master, or Instagram, Jedi Wine Master. I see you see a theme here.
Yeah.
Because Jennifer Simonetti-Bryan is just way too long. So Jedi Wine Master, I figure they know I'm a Star Wars fan, and if Star Wars and wine, so Jedi Wine Master it is.
Oh my gosh, that's so easy to. And I remember the Wine Wars podcast.
Yes,
you've connected with them, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So they are, it's funny because we connected with a Star Wars podcast at International Podcast Day last year. And I think we connected them on Twitter. And then I think somehow you connected with them because of the whole Star Wars thing. So Star Wars fans and wine fans, there's something for you out there as well. And we'll link that up as well. But we're going to wrap it up for this week. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Jennifer, again, thank you for joining us. We had so much fun with you here today.
Oh, you guys are a blast.
You have so much spunk. It's so fun to be with you.
Thank you so much. And we should drink something together sometime soon.
Let's do that.
I would absolutely love that. So until next week, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to the Wine to 5 podcast. Be sure to check us out at Facebook/WineTWO5 and tune in next week for more fun and useful sip tips.